Nine Pound Hammer is an old song that I wrote a long time ago, probably when I was around 21 or so. Nine Pound Hammer obviously is a reference to many things. I mean, one, there's the story of John Henry, the legend of John Henry, who was this iconic, legendary, amazing laborer, worker. I guess the story was that he was a railroad worker and he was digging. The legend is that his job was to dig the road out for railroads. He was the best of the best, and he was this amazing guy. And it was right around the time of the advent of steam engines. And the legend is that, they put John Henry up against a steam engine to see who could dig faster. And John Henry dug and dug and dug his way through the mountain, and he did beat the steam engine. He won the contest, but it resulted in his death. And this is a legend about sort of the progress of technology and how it is the demise of the old-fashioned hard-working man. I think that's the primary interpretation. So I had that, and then there's of course the bluegrass standard song, 9 Pound Hammer. And throughout my time as a songwriter, I've always been kind of referencing the legacy of music, referencing other iconic cultural pieces, and kind of tying myself and my works to them through this. I guess I see it as this sort of string through time that's like, there's John Henry, there's John Henry, there's John Henry, and this is a new reference to John Henry. Around the time, two things were kind of influencing me. My dad was always coming around asking one of us in the family to help him apply for jobs on the computer. There was this time in the world when this was a thing. It was like everybody was switching their job application process to the internet. And this was a surprise to a lot of people. It was like, what is going on? You can't just drop off an application or a resume anymore. They always say you have to do it online. That was what my dad would always kind of complain about. And he was the kind of guy that he is the kind of guy that he knew how to do all kinds of stuff. Like we had all these tools laying around, and when it came to little things, household things, repairs, and minorly working on cars or different things, I always perceived him as a really capable person and knowledgeable person. But this piece of technology, this computer, was just total kryptonite for his productivity. It was like you can't get a job without being able to navigate a website. And I had that going on, and I had met these musicians who were playing a song about John Henry, and Jillian Welch was I was newly interested. I was a new fan of her song Elvis Presley Blues that kind of talked about John Henry, and I was just seeing this pattern emerge between the two. So I wrote this song 9 Pound Hammer, kind of in reference to a lot of things going on. And the song to me was interesting because it shed a different light. It was like, it's kind of the progress of the story of John Henry. It's like in this case, John Henry is remembered as a member of perhaps the greatest generation or the generations before. He beat the steam engine in his pursuit, though it resulted in his death. But what I like about playing with my take on John Henry was that my character did not beat the steam engine. He didn't emerge victorious. He looked up and he had lost the fight against technology. And of course, what I appreciate too is it's from the perspective of John Henry's son, or a character like John Henry, not exactly John Henry, but it's from the perspective of that character's son who's watching this unfold and feels a great responsibility to his mother because this father figure dies, is out of the picture, doesn't defeat the advancement of the times. And in the last verse, the narrator finally explains, this is the situation we're in, and says, I finally found a job heating up the steamer, making half what Daddy did. Something about that really satisfies me. He had to harness the technology that defeated his father figure, but at the expense of the value of his labor. He had to make less. He had to reap fewer rewards than his father did. That is kind of emblematic of the times we live in a way. It's like, yeah, we have all this freedom, but the value of that creativity and that creative output, very different. Creativity's everywhere, and it's great, but it's just different than it's ever been, and it's hard to know whether it's for the better or the worse.